is big reveals couched between our ongoing themes of treachery and betrayal. Once again, guys, welcome to the Bootleg Corner movie review hours once again, and it is Shogun episode 7 at the top of our list. This episode is one for and of the women in this series, ladies Kiku, Ochiba, and Mariko. First, we get the backstory to Mariko, a peek into her early life where she was originally friends with Lady Ochiba when their families were close at the time. How Mariko's life went from carefree and comfortable to restricted and miserable in marriage to a man she did not desire. Buntaro is equally miserable in this marriage and goes to Toranaga complaining bitterly of Mariko's coldness towards him, as well as her seeming attachment to Blackthorn the Barbarian. Toranaga has no time for petty squabbles like this, with his mind on bigger things like the looming war ahead of him. His reckless and thoughtless son, the turncoat vassal at his side, and strategies for winning the war. Toranaga is so bummed out by domestic issues, he suggests divorce to Buntaro. Now, this is an interesting development because culturally, most ancient civilizations weren't very much open to divorce. Now, for 1600s Japan, what was their attitude towards this? I will talk about this at the end of the video. But moving on, Buntaro, even with this suggestion, refuses to consider divorce, and Toranaga orders him to seclude himself from Mariko for 7 days. How he's going to achieve this while staying in the same household is up to him, except he's going to move somewhere else for the duration of this order. Following Buntaro is Blackthorn and Mariko, with even more petty requests of Blackthorn wanting to make war on the Portuguese, the Regents, and then leave Japan in that order. But Toranaga is already in business with the Portuguese per their agreements in his escape from Osaka, and he is still undecided on the appropriate war strategy. Besides, what's the assurance that when Blackthorn gets on his ship, he's going to maintain loyalty to Toranaga when he can just sail away or betray him? So his requests are a no-go from Toranaga, who instead instructs Mariko to take Blackthorn to a brothel and hire the best courtesan for Blackthorn. Meeting with his vassals, son and advisors yields no better input. The option of Crimson Sky is then put on the table, where Toranaga and his army would march towards Osaka and seize the capital in one daring charge. But Toranaga is unconvinced of his success and tells his men to find a more feasible solution. So now Operation Crimson Sky was devised years ago as a fail-safe plan, but revealing it in the open with Yabushige the traitor present leads me to think there is something else at play here. On the other hand, at the palace, Ishido has taken the other regents hostage. Under the advice and influence of Lady Ochiba, he has floated a rumor of threats against the Taiko's heir, which means they have to vote for a new regent to replace Toranaga. He finds a man, Lord Ito, who is amenable and susceptible to suggestions, and presents him as the regency candidate. Here we find Lady Ochiba's backstory, how she went from an equally happy life, just like Mariko, to becoming a consort to the Taiko, to bear a son where hundreds have failed to bear any issue. Lady Ochiba is firmly in control and behind majority of Lord Ishido's decisions, whether he knows it or not, and I believe she knows he is merely hungry for power and not interested in any future of the Taiko's heir. Blackthorn's visit to the brothel is fraught with underlying tension. Mariko especially has refused to give further thought to the situation between them, yet it clearly pains her to see a man she is attracted to visiting a brothel for sexual pleasure. Her marriage to Buntaro has hamstrung her movement and freedom, a situation she lamented to Toranaga, at which he explains her marriage was meant to keep her away from her father and the consequences of his decision, and thus had to be put to death alongside his family for his treachery. But by ensuring Mariko's marriage to a different, more favored household, and with the benefit of a new name, she is exempt from the punishment given to her birth family. Lady Ochiba's motivations are also revealed in this episode. It just happens to be that her father was the man killed by Jinsai Akechi, who according to her was in cahoots with Toranaga. So while Mariko's father wielded the blade, our outcast regent whispered the words that led to his death. This has seemingly put to bed my theory that she may be in league with Toranaga after her detention in Edo in episode 1. So our combatants are slowly taking shape as the episodes go by. Now the Regents are in to vote for a new Regent spot, and all three of Ishido and the Christian converts of Ono and Kiyama are in agreement. Our odd man out, surprisingly, is Sugiyama. He knows the new Regent is merely another puppet for Ishido and Ochiba and says so frankly. He's appalled at their detention in Osaka and makes his feelings felt before leaving the meeting. Sugiyama has just signed his death sentence, and I think he knows because he attempts to flee Osaka at night, but is stopped by an army of bandits led by Ishido, who put him and his entourage to death. Lady Kiku we saw in previous episodes was with Omi, who is Yabushige's protege, and we know she knows about Yabushige and Omi, who are not exactly straightforward with Toranaga. She noticed the tension between Blackthorn and Mariko at her brothel, and we will no doubt have her opinions on it. Whether she'll report this to Omi is up for debate, but I have no doubt she will play an important role in the coming episodes. Omi and Nagakado are both miffed by Blackthorn's rapid rise from prisoner to admiral and canon regiment commander, and we both know these young men share ambitions of rising to the top faster than their masters or intellect allow. Will they do something about it? Maybe. After all, Nagakado's spurious display has already moved the war timeline ahead by 5 months, even though they are unprepared for the coming battle. Now to our earlier topic of divorce regarding Buntaro and Mariko. I looked up the divorce laws in 1600s Japan. Multiple articles and books later, common consensus was divorce wasn't really hard to process in this time period. Now for men, it was quite straightforward as they could legally pursue divorce. However, women could only do so through the use of divorce temples. Now these temples were generally set up to shelter women who no longer wanted to stay with their husbands before or during the divorce proceedings. So the form and authority to conduct divorces depended on the status and class of the intending divorcees. For the elite who had political marriages, it would require the highest level of authority, while for the samurai class, the daimyo or local lord could take charge of it. Now for the commoners, they required no higher authority. The husband simply presented his wife with a short list of reasons, however mundane, and then her people will return the dowry and she leaves his house. So relating this to Buntaro and Mariko will fall between the samurai and elite classes, and so in the case of a prospective divorce, Toranaga would be the one to dissolve the union. This episode is one marked by 3 different women cast in different circumstances, either by choice or compulsion, but ensuring their rough choices in lives haven't dimmed their wits to the slightest. Lady Ochiba is scheming and looting her way to the throne, even though she has to sit behind her son, using greedy men like the Regents to make her way. Mariko has maintained her strength and sanity and even found a way to become useful to Toranaga by learning Portuguese and thus translating for him, where an untrustworthy outsider may fail to do so adequately. Kiku is a courtesan either by choice or something else, and she slithers quietly, whispering ideas in the right ears and collecting information from others. It is no secret that men will reveal the most important details offhandedly in brothels where they believe they are safe, and I'll be shocked if Kiku does not possess some serious information in their hands at this point. Moving on, the fashion and styling has been quiet but effective in this series. No overly ostentatious display of wealth like we are used to seeing in other historical series, but the cultural disconnect may not have us realizing the actual wealth symbols in this feudal era of Japan. But we do know that for the elites in the show, their clothing, manners, and ceremony are of the highest order. Toranaga and Mariko, for instance, have been wearing some serious robes throughout this series, and that hasn't gone unnoticed by me. This episode ends with Toranaga declaring Crimson Sky as the way forward, and I can't help but think this is just another smokescreen. Throughout this show, Toranaga has never stated his good intentions out loud, especially in dangerous times like this, and I still think he has some tricks under his sleeve. I suspect he's baiting Yabushige into betraying this to Ishido so he can do something different, but then maybe the die has been cast and this really is his last playing card. But you and I know and won't believe that Toranaga is as straightforward as this, especially at this point in time. So that's it for now. Next week we might get into actual warfare. This is still the Bootleg Corner. Don't forget to subscribe, keep it locked in, and we'll be back.